Speaking of OpenClaw, Claude Code are, over the last few days, they've been adding little features that are bringing us closer to having an OpenClaw that is safe, that we can use anywhere, and it doesn't require the relatively complicated setup of OpenClaw. Plus, it's within the ecosystem of Claude, which is very exciting. This is probably one of the reasons why Anthropic stomped on Claudebot when it first came out. Also, the name was really confusing, but also they were moving towards their own agentic platforms, their own ability to work with Claude Code anywhere. So yesterday we heard about, let me put it up, because they're slowly putting together each of the pieces of OpenClaw inside of Claude Code. So yesterday, 2 days ago, they added remote control. So the ability to work with Claude Code on your computer and then switch to your telephone, continue talking to it, and it will be running tasks back on your main device. So you can kick off a task in your terminal and pick it up on your phone while you take a walk or join a meeting, or for most people, go to the toilet. Claude keeps running on your machine and you can control a session from the app or the web version. OpenClaw, you have a persistent session that is always running and you're able to send it messages and continue working with it even when you're not at your computer. One of the big unlocks with OpenClaw was the ability to work with it through Telegram, WhatsApp, Discord, Slack, and it just made it feel much more like a team member, somebody that you were just sending messages to and they were getting on with the work. Could you do this before? Absolutely. You could set up these integrations before. OpenClaw just made it a lot easier, and Claude Code has now made it even easier by integrating it straight into Claude Code. Today, we have a new one, scheduled tasks. So Claude can now complete recurring tasks at specific times automatically. A morning brief, weekly spreadsheet updates, Friday team presentations. 90% of the people that I knew who were using OpenClaw were basically just using it for this. They were using it to give them a morning summary of, hey, this is what your emails say. These are the things you should be doing today. Here are some reminders for birthdays, whatever. They were using it as a personal assistant. And that was mainly built on being able to set up a task overnight where OpenClaw would go off, do the research, check in where it needed to check in, pull in all of the data, and then compile that into a daily report. Pretty basic stuff. Again, stuff we could do before using a cron job. Claude made it easier. They made it feel natural and easy to do. Claude have just done the same thing. So scheduled tasks. Claude can now complete recurring tasks at specific times. Fantastic. So this means all of those tasks that you've set up that you want running every night or every week, you can now put them into Claude Code. I think Cowork specifically. It's in Cowork. I don't know why it's only in Cowork, but it will now act in the same way. So it brings it closer to this idea of this persistent autonomous assistant that is just doing stuff for you. Because a lot of the autonomy inside of OpenClaw was basically this, the fact that you could schedule things. Even things like Alex Finn, who's been pushing OpenClaw a lot, he kept doing these viral posts where it's, oh, I woke up this morning and my OpenClaw has built itself a face, or now it has a voice and it's able to talk to me. That's because he set up a task, which was every night while he was sleeping, to improve yourself and improve the way that we work together. That was the recurring task that it's doing every single night. So to ask it to look through their previous interactions and work out how it could streamline that, how it could make their working relationship better. He set up the intention of the recurring task to get that done. So we can now do this directly in Claude. It looks like they have looked at OpenClaw, worked out what parts people actually want, which is being able to access it anywhere, 24/7, being able to schedule up tasks, and they are just hitting them one at a time and recreating OpenClaw, the experience of OpenClaw inside of the Claude system. Now, obviously, there are limitations here. One of the great things about OpenClaw is you can connect it to pretty much anything. That is still the case with Claude Code and Cowork because you can connect via MCPs, you can connect via skills, API, and you can still do an awful lot of stuff. But this is going to be a little more controlled. OpenClaw is basically the Wild West. You can get it to do pretty much anything. This reduction in its capabilities is also a good thing because then we don't end up in situations where people start deleting their inboxes, start buying stuff for their credit card by mistake because they've given OpenClaw access. So with this limitation comes safety. This is always going to be the balance between control and safety. If you give more control, there's more chance that something's going to go horribly wrong. So Claude is just releasing a safer, more constrained version of OpenClaw.